Good day, everyone. Today, upon a viewer's request, I am going to be sharing my thoughts about Copperbank, a tiny out-of-the-money copper play. So first, I wanted to clarify that this is a optionality play for a fairly out-of-the-money, or a few fairly out-of-the-money copper deposits. Now, these things often trade at a discount when the price is nowhere near, seemingly, because they require a significantly higher price to even be in the money. And then there's often some development and some money that they need to advance the project, and it's a long process towards monetizing these assets. Now, some of the best plays in the past have been on this type of company. Uh, so I'm not saying it's a good or bad, I'm just saying it's a type of play. And so obviously it would need higher prices before being more valued, and that's would coincide with later in a copper bull market. So that's what this play is. Now, while I just mentioned that optionality plays can be profitable at some point, there is a lot of questions that need to be answered between now and then. These things, because they have tiny market caps and can stay that way for a while, and as it requires work with the tiny market cap and equity raises, it can dilute the value very relatively quickly because if you wanted to raise a keep the lights on financing, let's call it, that can already be 5 or 10% equity stake in the company. So, and then if they want to advance the projects, we're talking significantly more than that. So that has to be accounted for in the discounted valuation. Now, when I first heard about this company, it was a while ago, and it was based on a news article which stated that their CEO was being paid exclusively in shares, which is good. I'm better than being paid in cash because although it is issuing more shares, otherwise the shares would have been issued for cash, and this will align the CEO's interest and incentive with that of the shareholders. So that is good. Now to look at the meat of the company, their assets. Firstly, they have a small asset, contact copper, which would have a net present value of 107 million, which is relatively small for a mining project. This would be at $3.20 copper. Now, at $3.20 copper, it's a decent project. 25% IRR, fairly good. Now we progress to Copper Creek, which has a net present value of 488 million, so bigger, but only a 16% IRR, or sorry, those numbers pre-tax with a 16% IRR at 330 copper. This is still at a preliminary economic assessment, which means it's probably not still not feasible at $3.30 copper. You probably need 340, at least maybe 350 before this becomes an asset that I would want to see go into production. So it is really a later stage play. Now they also have Pyramid, which is early, just a 43101 with a 1.2 billion pounds of copper and almost half a million ounces of gold. So before production, you'd need the PEA, PFS, and then DFS. So there's still a lot of work that needs to go into all of these projects before they would hypothetically be ready. Now, that being said, that's fine because there is some time needed for the copper price to get where it needs to be. So, looking at the net present values, this company is at a steep discount to what the present value would be if the company went into production. That being said, you always need to evaluate these things relatively because you need much higher copper. So you'd want to look at, well, what if you bought something that was kind of in the money now, and how much more would it be worth with higher copper? So that's something to consider. Similarly, with a company that has a $13 million market cap, you'd want to hold it tactically and not necessarily if it's going to stay around here for a long time. Because if it stays along down here as the work is done, you're going to end up with a fraction of what you started with in terms of the value, and there's going to be a lot of warrants that get issued. Now, if you are one of the people who is participating in the private placement and getting the warrants, that could be beneficial. However, if you're not, if you're buying the stock on the open market, it's something to think about. So the final point that I'd like to make about Copperbank is this is a very high risk, high reward potential play. Before going into this one, I would need to do a lot more due diligence about the management team. I would want to really have to trust the management to A, not dilute me, B, know what they're doing, C, progress in a timely manner, and D, be able to execute on all the things that need to go right in order for this to play out. Now, obviously, you could just buy this because you see speculative value, sure, but you just have to be aware that if copper trades in this range for another few years, basically all of your value will be probably eroded away if um, management decisions aren't in line with that. So all in all, Copperbank is billions of pounds of copper that need higher prices to be economically mined. Realistically, their main project probably needs 340, 350 copper to make it make sense. But that being said, it has billions and billions of pounds of copper. So if the copper price goes to $4 or 450, or you're insanely bullish on copper, which, it could easily eventually get there given the supply picture going out years. The value of this thing would skyrocket because every additional pound of copper gets 1 more cent for every cent after it is economic. So $1 billion, that's some real money. Now, they do also need to advance their project. So how much is that? Well, probably need to look, add whatever value discount you want to use, and then look at the probability of copper getting there. I don't really like to do that in these things because it's requires me to make a lot of assumptions for risk and what your expected gain is and when you would think that the price would reach the target. So that's a lot of variables, and this is more of a what to think about, what to look for, what to see in the resources, in the assets. So that's all for Copperbank. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want my thoughts, my view on a specific stock, please feel free to leave it in the comments. It is probable, however, that if you do so, I will only get to it in a few weeks as I won't be around for a while, so I will get to it, but after that, yep, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time.